Y'all know I'm weird. Whatever.
Hey everybody, what's up? It's your girl BondyBlue. So let's go ahead. Hey everybody, what's up? It's your girl BondyBlue. Okay, follow me on Instagram and let's get into the video, right?
Come on in.
Hey everybody, what's up? It's your girl BondyBlue and I am back, girl. Hi everybody. So, I am doing something very different today, but it is some gossip topics in there. So hold on, girl. We're going to bring it all together for you. Okay? But I wanted to ask Black women specifically, when was the first time you ever heard you think you grown? For me, I heard it as long as I can remember, like going back to maybe 8 or 9. It seemed whenever I understood something that I was not supposed to understand at my very young age, I was seen as smart aleck, which made it seem as if I must have been sexually promiscuous in some way because I have understanding that I should not have at that age, therefore defining me as fast at a very young age. It affected the way people treated me. It affected the way young boys were able to treat me and handle me in some cases. And I really thought it was important for us to have this conversation when filmmaker Chanel DUPREE emailed me and sent me a copy of her documentary, You Think You Grown, which will be available in the New York area, premiering at the Apollo Theater on August 12th at 12 p.m. if anybody in the area wants to go. And there'll be another show later in the month of August in Indianapolis. But for now, she is shopping it to festivals. But I think it is a very real conversation that we need to have. And I want to have this conversation with you. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring on Chanel and Dr. Nikki. But first, let's take a look at You Think You Grown, the documentary.
So, of course, this documentary is entitled You Think You Grown, a phrase us Black girls have heard from the beginning of time. When you hear that phrase, what is the first thing that comes to mind?
When I hear that phrase, I think of the many times I was in grown folks' business.
Don't wear that, you're too grown. Don't do that, you're too grown.
Pretty much anytime you're doing anything outside of what people believe a child should be doing.
The foundation laid towards the unique intersection of race and gender that Black girls fall into dates back to the early 1800s.
Our ancestors were enslaved laborers. They were forced to be laborers. So before they were women or men, they were tools. The effect of generations of institutional racism has created this collective psychology around Black children that makes them criminalized and considered as adults.
It's interesting how a girl's body or a femme body turns into something like out of nowhere. It almost feels like out of nowhere what I'm wearing is a big deal.
They would tell me that I'm fast or I'm being grown just for understanding more than they want me to know.
I've been told so many times that the way that I dress or the way that I talk or the way that I behave is as if I'm trying to get like men's attention or men's validation, when really I was just wearing clothes, I was just talking, I was just existing.
What follows them into adulthood is the insecurity of how I look versus who I am and how I feel.
I've seen a lot of archetypes of Black women on social media, on TikTok specifically. It's like you have to be a specific type of Black woman, and it just never feels like it encompasses all Black women. It's like, okay, well, I love Afros, but this is enough. Like just this.
We Black women have a tendency to exhale excellence and best believe that this is only the beginning of all that you will leave. Do not let these people destroy the legacy that you will leave. That resilience, it flows through your bloodstream and your heart's mind. It is within you. It is in your genealogy.
All right. So thank you, Chanel and Dr. Nikki, for joining and bringing this to me.
It's so good, Chanel. It's so good.
Thank you. Thank you, my love.
I love it every time I see the package.
Yes, I think it's so beautiful. And I remember instantly when I watched it feeling like, how can I help? How can I get the word out? How can I get us to have this conversation? Because I felt like it was something that definitely affected me growing up, and I've often talked about it on my platform. And so I really, really wanted to take part in bringing it to my audience in a way that was something they could understand, something that they could really chew on, and something that can change their outlook on how they handle themselves, but also how they handle their kids and their nieces. You know what I'm saying? And even their nephews who are also put in these, little man roles when they're so young, me personally, I was the dumping ground for a lot of my family. And it's so funny that I'm not as connected to them as I was as a child, but as a child, I'm the child that everybody comes to get so that they can talk to this child about whatever's going on with them. Like, I was very much in adult people's business from the time that I could talk, basically. And then once I start to have an opinion about what I am being put into, honestly, then all of a sudden you think you grown. And then what comes along with that is shame. And the shame, I think, is what stayed with me in my adulthood, to where I am hyper fixated on making sure I'm not coming off a certain way. So I really want Chanel, Dr. Nikki, either of you to go into the origins of adultification so we can explain it to the audience.
Whew. Yeah, sure. So to make it plain and simple, we as Black people, adultification is a racial bias. It is specific to us. It is how systematic racism plays a part in with children. And the origins of adultification is slavery. Children from a very young age were not looked at as human, let alone as children. They were looked at as cattle, as workers, and that mentality has continued on the generation and the generation. There's so much verbiage that we can hear from the silent generation, that we hear from millennial parents now, from the Jim Crow era and all of those things. So the origin of adultification is truly during that transatlantic slave trade, when we were put in chains and children no longer had childhoods, and it was solely about what you can work and what you can bring. And we just continued that in our parenting with children. And it's so amazing that you said that, Bonnie, that you were the person that everyone came to, that when you had an opinion, it was ready to, stay in a child's place. And so many of the women that I interviewed, Dr. Nikki as well, that's why you nodded, we said that, said the same thing. And they were very confused about what is a child's place, because I've got to cook a dinner for 7 people. Okay. I got to get a job early. You are interrupting me, because that's what it feels like when someone tells you you think you've grown. You're in your childlike experience, and it's an interruption to that. I can be interrupted. However, if I express myself, if I'm an actual human being expressing my feelings about something, then it's you think you've grown. Then I have to be put in a child's place. So you never really know what a child's place truly is. Like, so many of the women I was speaking to, it was like, I did not know what a child's place was, because I was in the midst of like being treated as an adult, being seen as an adult, but also being chastised as if I'm not. So
It feels
such a
like
weird juxtaposition.
it often to me felt like be stupid. In this moment
Yes.
right now, ignore what is actually taking place and be stupid right now. Like, that's what it always felt like to me.
Yeah.
Can I jump in and make a connection? Because I oftentimes think when we start talking about the legacy of our enslavement, that we lose a lot of people, because people are like, that was 400 years ago. What does that have to do with me now? And what I always tell my clients is the past is always present with us. And I think the point you two are making, that like that tension of like, make it make sense. Either you want me to do all of these things that are beyond my developmental capacity, or I'm supposed to be some like invalid, incapable sort of like being, right? Which one is it? And I think it's the reality is it's both. And so the way I think about it is through the lens of intergenerational trauma. So Chanel is absolutely right? You can't have a 6-year-old or 4-year-old fanning the mistress and doing the job for 12 hours, 16 hours a day, and call them a child in the same way that your child is a child. So we have to otherize them. But what happens is then we, as a collective people, understand the very real threat to life, limb, and well-being of being out of place. And so what we do is we then internalize all of the shit that was imposed upon us to keep us and our children safe. So what I hear you saying, Bondi, is like, I'm being told to shrink, right? And that's a
absolutely
technique. I'm gonna make myself small so that no one can, I'm not a target, I'm not easily seen, no one can catch me out, right? And so much of the stuff that we are trying to excise and work through and therapize through and all of the stuff is just all of this trauma that we have inherited. Some of it is physically in our DNA. Some of it is in a lot of the ways that we've been culturally socialized. And it feels nonsensical now because the now doesn't line up with the context of the past. So you are asked to be in two different realities at the same time, which is why you're like, which one is it today?
And I think that even grows into our adulthood as women, because then it's the duality of, you know, be a childlike version of a woman, but then also bear the brunts and the children and the household and with that and his image and, you know, what that is. And I feel like one of the things that I heard that I really wanted to tap on, you know, as we get into the conversation about the sexualization, is how they will shame you for possibly seeking the validation of men while also teaching you to be seeking the validation of men through marriage and having children. So everything is, I mean, I can remember being told at like 14 when I could have possibly, because everybody's speculating about it, but nobody knows for sure that I am also sexually attracted to women at this time. And I'm told that, you know, no man is going to want me once he finds out that I also like women. Now, me, myself at 14 knew that this was a lie. But girl, I'm like,
because what?
Like, what are you
Where
talking
did that
about?
even come from?
Like, first of all, I had the boyfriend and the girlfriend at the house at the same time on Christmas one year. So I don't even know what you're talking about. And that boy circled back around to be an adulthood. Again, I don't know what you're talking about. But still, I feel like this onus is put on us to like do things with the thought process that eventually you're going to need to trap a man. So you need to be able to seek this man's validation and be what he needs you to be. But at the same time, if you are a young woman trying to figure out what that looks like for you, and that comes out in a way that is too much for the people around you, then all of a sudden it's back on you to make yourself a child again so that these adults don't take advantage of you. And we're really going to get into that conversation when it comes to one of the gossip topics. But Dr. Nikki, can you get into the sexualization connection?
100%. So Black women have not had ownership of our sexuality since the time we put feet on this particular part of the world, right? Like our access to our own bodies, our understanding of ourselves as sexual beings, full stop, not sexual beings in the capacity of us to give birth to children, to procreate, to be pleasing, to have a partner, just as us having ownership of our bodies has been policed, controlled from the beginning of time. And then we also know that patriarchy is real and that produces predators. The reality is so many women are survivors of sexual abuse and assault and have never named it, have never been given space to name it. And so then they are parenting other girls out of that place of trauma and unresolved hurt and pain and abuse. And so they're trying to figure out this balance of, let me make my child appealing, right? Because I recognize her attachment to a man is part of how we establish our worthiness, our power, our place in the community. But also I know what it's like to be victimized, so I don't want her to be victimized. And so you end up getting all of these conflicting messages that make zero sense. And all of what is happening is nobody ever stops and asks the child what they want, what they're thinking, how they're related to themselves. I will I do this work, and I'm a mother. I'm a mother of a 12-year-old.
Actually, Dr. Nikki, can you give us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, yes. So I'm a licensed psychologist. I'm based in Houston, Texas. I'm from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I went to Xavier in New Orleans.
Okay, come on now.
Yes. I am an only child of a single parent, and I am a single parent raising an only girl child. So women have been prominent in my life and my understanding of myself my entire life, right? And it's been really interesting for me growing up in a really female-driven family to see some of the same stuff show up, even though men weren't really present in the household.
Same.
I think I had a lot more leeway around myself as a sexual being because of my mother. I think she was really progressive in that way. I think the trick with that was my mother wasn't actively involved in the church. I think I so much benefited from my mother wasn't actively involved in the church, and she was an educator. And her intelligence is, I think, how she saw herself being saved and able to like elevate and get out of situations. And she instilled that on me. Now it shows up differently, right? Because good girls get a good education, and you can't be around having sex because you might get pregnant and ruin your chances. So I didn't escape it all, but it looked different for me because I did not have that religious component. But I developed early. And nobody had any tools for me about how to navigate grown men looking at me like I was not 8 years old, like I was not 10 years old, right? Like nobody wanted to have those open conversations. So I don't think any of us escape it. But fast forward to me raising a 12-year-old going on a 22-year-old. And I say that with love because my child she came here downloaded with so much wisdom and so much self-assurance, not in that she's fast. So fast forward to she tells me she's in 5th grade, so she would have been 10 going on 11. And she told me that she had a crush, her first crush that she told me about. And I started making like a joke around, ooh, you want to kiss him or something. And she was like, ew, gross, And it clicked for me. And I said, babe, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to make you feel uncomfortable. I said, tell me what it means for you that you like him, that you have a crush. And she was like, I just like talking to him and like hanging out. And it clicked for me that like the feelings are the same for her, but it has nothing to do with sex at all. She just is like, this dude looks a little glowy. He a little special. He a little smarter than. And I would love to just like chill with him on the playground. It really was that simple. And it flashed back to me like all these times that I was accused of doing something way beyond what I was not even able to comprehend, but I wasn't even thinking about it like that. And I was like, we get this so wrong. Yes, it's perfectly normal for her to have a crush on somebody at age 10, but that don't mean anything sexual. So we all need to calm down and like bring it down a little bit.
And I also feel like one of the things I noticed about the sexual component is a lot of the times when we are growing up, we're still trying to figure that out, but we get a lot of that from our parents. Like we get a lot of our understanding, like to be very clear, my first like understanding of porn came because my dad forgot to take one of his porn tapes out of the VHS, like out of the the record, the
we're not leaving stuff on the in the DVR, but that happens so often where kids are exposed to stuff because somebody didn't close the browser down. Okay.
Exactly. So it's very weird the way we then, I guess, internalize how we see things as adults and put that on children. And that even makes me think about the teacher. And I was gonna make a whole graphic, but I was like, we don't need to talk about it. But now that we're talking about it, I kind of wish I did. But you guys remember that teacher who was getting his hair taken out by the girls. And everybody was like, oh, he should be fired. But there was an aspect of that where I felt like they felt like the girls were making that a romantic
100%.
gesture to him. And I don't feel like that is necessarily the case. As someone that remembers liking certain teachers, that's not the place that your mind goes to with it exactly, even if you do have a crush on them, because I remember having crushes and still not being ready to have sex or have anybody in my personal space. So, we really have a hard time with seeing things compartmental, in a compartment. Like, yes, crush, yes, But sex is different. Even
Right.
watching sex is not the same thing as allowing someone to actually touch your person as a kid. And even with all of that growing up, I still didn't have sex until I was ready. Until I was like 19 years old and was like, dude, I want to break my virginity. Come holler at me. Like, until, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, assertive and sure in that moment. And it wasn't anything that I feel like, was forced on me. But I feel like with a lot of the time I was still being called fast even before I had even had sex. It was crazy to me that simply being smart or understanding people
Mhm.
specifically and relationships between adults makes it seem as if you had sex in some way, which is the craziest thing to me.
Isn't it interesting? I just have to piggyback off this. Isn't it interesting that you being smart translates to you being grown when you're a kid? However, when a black woman is a smart woman, you undermine her for her intelligence.
Yes.
So you chastise a child because she's too smart and you got to bring her down. But then when she is smart, you still got to bring her down. I really think that a lot of this has to do with people do not understand children. Take race out of it. People do not understand what children can understand, what children comprehend, and the guidance that children need. I actually started the documentary with a definition of what the meaning of a child is from a psychology book. I'm going to read it real quick.
Go ahead.
Indeed, a baby is a material and biological reality. Yet at the same time, every baby is born into a social world, a linguistic world, a gendered world, an adult world full of discourse with complex, contradictory meanings. The helpless and total dependent human infant without control of language is given meaning by adults from the first minute its parents start to interact with it in the context of a wider culture. Kids don't come out, like you see a little girl dancing and it's like she being fast, she dancing sexy. She just got her knees. Her neck just stopped swiveling and she's in a pamper just moving her knees. But somehow you are in your brain translating that as being something sexual. Like you take the innocence of a child's brain, you really don't understand their development, and you're putting these adult-like attributes onto this child, and then confused why they have such a misstep with growing up. They were never given agency. They were never given the opportunity to be looked at as innocent.
Right.
I will never forget when my daughter was younger, like preschool, toddler, like I don't even remember the exact outfit, but she had on something and she was cute. She was doing the girl thing where she was like, look at me. And they were like, oh, okay, sexy. And I was like, what? I was like, no, that's not the adjective at
No.
all. Adorable, cute, precious, gorgeous, beautiful, pretty. I can give you 25, but sexy don't make the list. Like she's 3 or she's 4, right?
Right.
So I think that point you're making exactly, Chanel, is like and listen, I'm no perfect person in mothering. I'm constantly learning, and I'm very intentional about how my own stuff shows up and how I see my daughter, how I'm trying to relate to her, and I'm constantly being able to hold myself accountable for when I've missed the mark. And I think that is the best that we can do. And I think a lot of us, most of us still are not getting that. Our parents or the adults in our lives have so much of their own stuff that's in the way that they've not even thought about or considered. And it's just spilling onto the child, or like getting all over the child without any time to take a time out, consider, rethink, learn how to like rein your stuff in, see the child as their own individual person who may have different opinions, experiences, likes, dislikes, all of these things from you.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things when you talk about that, I think about is the way we expect children to be able to control themselves, but then don't expect the parent to. Because to me, and this is from my own experience, when you're usually getting hit as corporal punishment, it is out of anger. It is not really discipline at all. Real discipline will come from being able to control yourself and then thinking about what an adequate punishment would be for this specific thing that the child has done. Instead, your first instinct is to hit them out of anger that they've done something to shame, embarrass, inconvenience, or annoy you. So your first thing is to hit them out of anger. And then when they have whatever response they have, to me, was cry, you're being told, you better stop crying before I give you something to cry about. So forcing me at a very young age to take your abuse and then show no reaction to it whatsoever. So how that happens when I become an adult is kind of a double-edged sword, because yes, I do seem to have my shit together, and you don't know about the tornado that's whirling around in my mind, because I've been raised to keep a straight face even when I am dying on the inside. But what happens? I suppress everything until I make myself sick. Me personally, I will suppress and work and work and work and work until I catch pneumonia or the flu, or, you know, sprain something when I work out and have to sit my ass down for 3 or 5 days, you know, more than I would want to. But I feel like it shows up in all of these other ways. The things that we now become so anxiety filled about is in relation to the way our parents have maybe overreacted to us as children because they could not control themselves. So I think, you know, what we really need to be thinking about is, okay, instead of jumping to anger when they do something wrong, it really does need to be, I need to calm down and think about this, and then I can come to my child with whatever needs to happen. I feel like we weren't given that when I was growing up. It was almost like, I have to hit you, I have to beat you. There were times when they actually went and in an hour or two went by and then they still came and beat me. You know, I've been, you know, woken up being hit out of my sleep before, like all kind of shit. Like, so it's, to me, you have to be hyper vigilant about these things these days, because it only creates, I think, even more violent people in the world when you don't teach them how to take a deep breath and handle whatever is going on in a calm manner, if it can be handled in a calm manner. I wasn't really taught that. I had to learn how to regulate my feelings out of fear, because if I did not regulate them, I would be abused more.
So the psychological term for that is, oh, am I talking over you, Chanel?
No, that was fine. No.
So the psychological term is called dysregulation, meaning your emotions, your nervous system is dysregulated. So you cannot operate from a sense of rationality. Literally what happens is the part of your brain that it allows you to be strategic, think things through, make executive functioning decisions goes offline. And the part of your brain that is all reactionary is what comes online. And then those are skills that we have to be taught, though, because we come out into the world, as Chanel's definition, we just here, we just beings, we're flesh, our brains are developing. We have to be taught these things. And so if you have gone 25, 35, 45 years, never regulated, and you have a vulnerable human being that you're responsible for, but you're responsible for them, and they are causing you to feel activated, it's so easy to just throw all of that on them, and then they don't learn to be regulated. So then they trigger you, and it becomes this really, really out of control cycle. I am at a place now, I've been here for a while, but the more I learn about brain development and how our subcortex actually works and gets in the way of our ability to show up as our full selves, when I see parents in the grocery store or in public cussing their babies out, it triggers, like it makes me so uncomfortable. And then I'm always like having this internal conversation, like, now you gonna say something, you gonna get cussed out, like what happened, what you gonna do? But I know, I see it happen. Like, this child's brain is being wired right now to respond to violence and aggression and out of control anger from age 1, from 9 months, from 3 months. And then now they're going to be out in the world at age 15, 18, 25, doing the same thing because they've internalized that. Their brain has been wired around that. They don't have the skills to learn how to process that.
It's so funny that you say that because that is so triggering watching other people like low-key abuse their kids in front of you. Because, like, I'm gonna be real, I stay away from certain people because I can't deal with the pop off that happens if their child spills something, or just as being a child and not being mindful of something that you have this like huge angry reaction, and I'm like, I can't be around this because this shit is triggering for me as the
Mhm.
one that has had grown adults running across the room on me for breathing too hard. Like, I don't want to be around this at this stage in my life if I can help it. I may not have any children, but I feel like I would not be handling them like that at this point in the game. So for me, being around people that do that is a no-go for me. And they'll often feel like, oh, well, I'm not being, a good family member because I'm not always around. And it's like, yeah, but it's hard to be around when this is how you respond to things. It's upsetting to my nervous system.
Right. And
It's
because I
crazy.
know better, I want to like interject. So I'm just gonna let me just take myself out.
Because if I
Because also,
interject,
and
then that's gonna be something between you and I, and then that's gonna escalate this. It's just some.
we could really talk about how parents don't want people to talk, give them any type of redirection because you feel ownership over your child. That's a whole nother conversation because I do feel like if we want to say we want community and it takes a village to raise our kids, then the village is not just supposed to go along with what you're doing. A village is also supposed to like have a little bit of concern and maybe, okay, maybe try this or maybe try a little bit of that. Like that's what a community actually is. But I think that a lot of people have such an ownership over the child. This is my property, it's mine, and
Yes.
I do with it what I want, that it's best for me to just take myself out the equation because you're not going to receive it and I need to go. And I don't want to
Listen,
see this.
I'm gonna just start responding. Okay, slave owner. You know what I'm saying? If that's all right, colonizer. If that's how you feel, you know what I'm saying? Listen, go ahead. When they grow up and are just honestly a receptacle of all your anger, get ready for what that's gonna look
Hello.
like, mom. You know what I'm saying?
Because they
Like,
always look at, where'd you get this from? All this aggression. Where'd this come from? I didn't raise you like that.
no, oh yeah. Oh, I love that I didn't raise you like that. Did you not, Barbara? Is that right? Okay. So moving on from there, I wanted to get into the social media aspect of it. I do notice, of course, social media, I think, makes the kids feel like they have to be more mature because now they are being inundated with so much media that shows them what's acceptable, what is, what you want to look like, as far as, the women and the bodies and the big titties and the big asses. And the young girls can't even be young girls. When we were growing up, at least there was no internet to be compared to. You might be compared to models and stuff, but there was a clear differentiation between Hollywood and celebrity in real life. Like when I was growing up, Black women did not get like filler and all of the injectables and shit like that. And I grew up with my mom being in the beauty industry. So I'm heavily around a lot of beautiful Black women, and it was just not a thing for Black women at the time. Fast forward to now, you know what I'm saying? People my age are like getting a little poop poop, and it's no judgment, but there's a time change there. So what we were able to be natural in before now feels like, no, I need to tighten this up. I need to fix this. And I think the effect that has on young women, is really hugely detrimental because they won't even let themselves grow up before they're trying to fix shit about themselves. And I know that social media has a huge part in that. So, Dr. Nikki, can you kind of draw that connection for us?
Yeah, so social media it's got us all messed up. Like and I just there's actually a book that just came out based on a lot of research that really children under the age of 16 shouldn't be on social media at all. Now we know how many of them do, right? Millions of them. And you are so right in that, it's one thing to be in the privacy of your own home, in the bathroom, trying to figure things out. It is a completely normal process to, in your adolescence, start to figure out who I am as a sexual being, to want to feel attracted, to want to feel like you have some sense of agency over your body. That is all normal. We're testing things out. You should be able to do that. The issue is doing that in the context of a brain that's not fully developed and doesn't understand the context of the longevity of time. Like nothing, the internet is forever, but for somebody that's only been here for 13 years, forever don't mean nothing. Like that means nothing to them, right? And so, and while that's happening, they're also consuming so much media that normalizes that for them. When I tell you, and I'm a sex positive sex therapist, this is what I do. But I just trip out on how normal get ready with me videos are. I'm like, wait a minute, Kev, on stage, you in your drawers. Like your underwear in the like it's so normalized. I'm like, I didn't really see this.
I don't even feel comfortable doing get ready videos and be like that. Let me get the crust out my eye in my, in a privacy.
And the way people on social media, the way you got your camera, they can look at a street light and tell where you live just by that. No.
All of that. So it's so normative. How would a 14-year-old know that this is problematic? How would someone have an understanding that this could be used against me and likely will be used against you as you try to go out into the world of professionalism or to have a career or to do all of these things? And then it also, I think the biggest issue for social media, and you know this in your own experience, it creates a false sense of reality. It is looking through reality through a very distorted, perfectly curated ideology, but the brain does not recognize, oh, that's fake flowers versus that's real flowers. It's just like that green is the green that flowers should be. So if I don't look like that, right? Boobs are supposed to look this way. My ass is supposed to look this way. And if not, then I'm less than. Something is wrong with me. And then we try to catch up in response to it. I have kept my daughter off of social media. It doesn't stop her from accessing it because she can go to YouTube and follow somebody that does compilations of people on social media, right? Or she's around friends at school who are encountering it. So we have to have active, ongoing conversations about the things. I have to have conversations oftentimes with her that I don't want to have. About 2 years ago, we went shopping for like summer clothes in Target. And they had these like bodycon dresses in the preteen section. And she tried one on, and I was like, I knew already going into it, I was not going to allow it. But I'm letting her have her thing because, again, she should have the right to develop and think about what looks good on her. And if I'm cute and want to feel cute, I want her to have access to all of that. But when she stepped out of that dressing room, I was like, absolutely not. So I'm going through this internal process, right, of like, I don't want to limit her as a being. I don't want her to feel ashamed of her body. I understand rape culture is real. I don't want to talk to her about, like, I'm having this whole like just internal meltdown. And I told her, no, babe, I don't think it's going to work. Well, why not? We can discuss it in the car. But right now, you just have to respect the boundary. That's not made for your body for right now. And so on the way home, I said, I have to have a conversation with you. I said, I've been really sitting with this. I don't know how to do this. I don't want to have this conversation with you at this age, but I don't know another way to explain it to you. And I said, the reality is there are going to be people in the world, men in the world, that won't see you as a child. And what they will do is look at you in certain clothes and then begin to treat you a certain way. And I don't want you exposed to that level of threat. I don't want you even to have to think about how to navigate that or negotiate that for you. And so for me, it's just best that we keep you out of certain things. And you just have to be okay with that. And we have to revisit that conversation every few months. We just had a little mini skirt conversation about 2 months ago when she was packing for a trip. I was like, nope, we have outgrown that. I was like, turn around. And I took her to the mirror. Turn around. I can see your butt. That's done. Okay. But what if I wear short? That's done. But I'm not, it's not even about you. It's about the fact that we have to navigate a world that is not going to see you as your full self. They're going to project onto you some version of you to themselves, and you have to deal with the consequences. And the best I can do is try to limit that for you as much as possible. We're gonna find some other cute stuff for you to wear. Yeah, but you have to have the conversations.
Yes,
I don't think a lot of parents are having the conversations, y'all.
No, it's just the do as I say type of thing. And I feel like that's the part that's really missing for this, because kids don't want to feel as they're growing older that you're continuing to push down what they can understand. They can understand,
Right.
hey, your ass is going to be out, and this might mean the wrong person might try to pull you in an alleyway. So in order to keep you from getting that type of attention, we're going to be a little bit more modest at this age until you are old enough to navigate a situation where you may be looked at completely sexual, which means they will not be seeing you as a person. They will be seeing you as something to use in order to get their rocks off, which makes it an unsafe situation. You have got to explain these things to the kids because they really just want to understand. And when you don't want to explain it to them, it just kind of makes them want to do the shit even more, which will also then put them in harm's way. But sometimes, child, they just got to learn on their own sometimes because you have these conversations over and over again, and it's like you're talking to a brick down wall. Do
But
what you
that
will.
goes back to Chanel's point of the village. Because I can, there are people in my daughter's life that can tell her the same thing I've been telling her.
And she'll listen to them.
Oh, I didn't know that. I've been like, oh, you didn't know that.
So I ain't say that. So now I gotta be you. You gotta get a second and third opinion on what I said. Okay. All right.
And I just want to say something to that social media aspect because I did have a conversation with these 3 beautiful teenage girls for the film, and because I wanted to know what it was like because we had the luxury of having a childhood without any of that. All 3 of us got to just enjoy whatever piece of childhood that we were able to have without hearing other people's opinions and seeing all of that. I really think that teen culture is like dying or almost or already damn dead because there were certain rites of passage that we had that are no longer seen. It's, seen as so little kiddish. When you go to the beauty supply, you get yourself, your real glossy gloss and your real dark eyeliner, and that's a beat face. Yes. That's a beat. Now the girls are like, at 13 years old, your contour is not good. Right? Your contour is not good. Your wig is shifted. And these are the expectations they have at 13 about your wig and your makeup don't look right. Instead of going to the beauty supply, now they're going to Sephora.
Girl, I just saw a damn baby. Okay. And I do mean a damn baby with a full lace front wig on, getting makeup done and everything. And I think it was like an African lady. I'm saying African because I don't think they said specifically what country. But I just remember feeling like, girl, now why is you putting that wig? Y'all, I'm sorry. Unless the baby has issues with growing hair, I do not see it for y'all putting lace front wigs on children. And I want y'all to stop.
There was a lady giving her child a perm because it must have been like a year because she said, oh, my baby hair is too nappy at the neck. Ridiculousness. I remember.
Girl, you about to kill your baby. With some damn hair.
These 2 17-year-olds went on a date. They went on Twitter and posted about it, which, oh God. They went on Twitter and posted, oh my God, our second date, really excited. And they were at a drive-thru movie and had nachos and candy. And a bunch of adults swarmed in and, oh, that's all he got you, sis. He not really paying for you. Mind you, these are 17-year-olds. And these are a bunch of adults clowning them about a beautiful age-appropriate date. Movie and dinner or lunch, whatever, that is a standard child teenage date. And you guys are putting these adult-like aspects.
Yeah, like what adults should be doing. And then also not even just adults, but grown-ass adults, not 20-something-year-olds. We're talking about like 30, 40-year-old adults.
Right. Oh, that's all he got you, sis. Oh my God, he only got you nachos. He's not paying a bill.
Let's have a real conversation because there's plenty of people who got all the things, all the bags, all the red bottoms, all the things, and they being treated like shit. They're getting their ass beat. They're not being respected. They're being cheated on. So the material is the least of the issues.
Hello.
Truly. And like what the young ladies were telling me in the film, they were just like when George Floyd happened and when the Black Lives Matter movement, they were accosted with like their friends making memes and just horrible like messages about Black girls and about Black women. And they were saying something that, Bondi, you said this in another video. I don't know if you're gonna remember it, but one of the young ladies also spoke about like on social media, they praise a certain type of Black girl, and it's like real light, loosely curled hair. And like, they were just like, oh, so is that the Black girl that gets accepted? Is that the Black girl that I should be? There's no direct line of respectful, appropriate content for children on social media, they are seeing what we're seeing, and that actually terrifies me. Like when I see like this red pill content and this, you know, misogynoir podcast going wild, it really makes me afraid for them, because we're seeing a lot of Black girls die because of rejection from boys who are listening to this content. So it really it's scary.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I've seen it happen, and like my daughter and then her best friend had their little talking to for the first time in 6th grade, and then the boys are coming in so like intense, blowing up their phones, like just really, really crazy. And then they're like, you know what? I was just kidding. We're not gonna be together. And seeing the boys flip and do that thing that we have all experienced, but I ain't gonna talk to your funky ass anyway. Like doing that to 11-year-olds and 12-year-olds. And so I'm having to have those conversations, right? Like that's too much.
I've definitely talked about this before, but and God rest his soul, because it's just funny how things work out. But I had a young a friend of mine growing up that lived in my neighborhood, and he liked me so much. And it was one of those things where I feel like what I experienced a lot was being with people out of pity or out of fear of what my rejection to them would do. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna be his little girlfriend. He lives on a corner of our neighborhood. So as soon as my father, my mother are driving into the neighborhood, he would be able to see. And then as soon as we're getting into the house, he's calling me. And I can remember my dad kind of being like, tell him to stop calling as soon as you get in the door. Because my dad is noticing the pattern. But I'm also like, but my mom has to check in with you every hour. And, you know, I think it was a funny thing to watch him like navigate trying to make sure I did not end up in a situation like that while also being in a situation like that. Because it's like, what do you think you're teaching me as far as how relationships are going to go if y'all have this very codependent, you know, toxic relationship? Like, what do you think this is teaching me? Like, I'm still having to deal with and unlearn the, I guess the need to be attracted to or into people that are not emotionally available if they're not trying to cage me like a bird. Like it's a very, you know what I'm saying? Or people keeping a certain amount of distance, you know, in order to keep a certain amount of control over, you know, a relationship. Is even with my friends, it's very, very, you know, a thing for me as I've gotten older to like navigate those relationships because of what I saw from my parents growing up. My mom, even with having like a lot of friends and being very involved in a lot of things, there was still a lot of isolating that took place. And when I was growing up, I was taught that that was a good thing for you to only want to be with your partner all the damn time, until I get into my own marriage and feel like, yeah, no, this is not, I can't, like, this is not, no. I don't know why y'all were doing this. What the fuck? Especially once you start working from home and you ain't seeing nobody anyway. It's kind of like, yeah, no, this is not what y'all said this was supposed to be. But anyway, I want to get into the topics because we still have our two ladies, Miko and Amethyst Simone, backstage to bring on and share their experiences with us. So I do want to quickly get into a few explanations on social media and just in entertainment that can kind of sum it up for you guys. So for instance, Blue Ivy. We all saw the way people had no real regard whatsoever for the fact that Blue Ivy was a toddler. And because I guess Beyonce and Jay-Z are rich, we would put this onus on Blue Ivy to look perfect as a toddler, which is so unrealistic. But you do this to little Black girls or mixed girls. I feel like recently they did it with Jeannie Mai's daughter. Jeannie Mai would do these little videos with her daughter, teaching her daughter how to meditate, and she would wake her up in the morning and they would do the meditation. So this is before she gets dressed or anything, and people are in the comments going in on how Jeannie Mai isn't combing the little girl's hair. And it was the same thing with Blue Ivy, and worse for Blue Ivy because Blue Ivy's not biracial. So she's getting judged for the type of hair she has, on top of the fact that it is not groomed the way some Black people feel like her hair should be groomed. So I definitely want to mark this as a, you know, adultification or making a child seem growner by even coming at them in that way or speaking on them in that way.
Absolutely. I remember. Do you remember that petition that garnered like
Yes,
thousands of signatures? And
a
even
petition.
before she came out of even before she came out of the womb, it was like, what is she gonna look like? You saw the memes of them putting Jay-Z in a wig and making her a little lighter and all of that ridiculousness, right? Just putting, because it's all related to featureism anyway. We know that, and anti-blackness and all of those things. And then when she comes out, that petition actually was the seed that began me making this film, because she is 2 years old, and there is a petition demanding, and it was created by a Black woman, demanding Beyonce to comb and straighten Blue Ivy's hair.
Girl, if you
And
don't
we
sound
heard
like
about it. Okay, we've heard about it, and it wasn't just that petition. We would hear people talk about it in beauty shops, in beauty salons, in barber shops, in regular conversation. What's Beyonce gonna do to that hair? What's Beyonce gonna do to that girl hair? Like, what's up? She just have her walking around with nappy head, and she walk around with blonde hair. She's two. She's two. And everything that is in this conversation is saturated with anti-blackness and self-hate. And you're not
It
going to
is,
tell
and
me
I also
anything
think
different.
about respectability politics, which is where like you need to be presented and packaged in a very certain way at all times to be acceptable, to be palatable, to have people respect you at a bare minimum, just respect your humanity. And I think that's the constant theme across these concepts of adultification and anti-blackness of any kind. It's basically we are dehumanizing each other. And again, we're doing the white man's work for him. Perhaps these people have never had children, but like when you are a parent, especially a parent of a toddler, I can't even envision what being a parent of a toddler at Beyonce's level is like, because I know what it was like for me. The hair is the least of the fucking concerns. Like, are they getting proper nutrition? Are they okay? Can you calm them down emotionally? Are you able to engage with them? Like, the hair is the least of concerns. And I also think that's an influence of the social media, because we're so used to everything being perfect, right? Nobody is posting that first take. No, that's why we got the editing tools and all of the software right now, so that we can get all of the things to be picture perfect. And then we start to think like, oh, that is reality. That's what's normal. Which is why you also hear that bullshit in these podcasts too, Chanel, right? Like, men have such expectations for how women are supposed to be based on some, I don't know, prototype, stereotype, some amalgamation of rom-coms from the 90s. I don't know where they get the shit from, but it's not rooted in reality at all.
Well, I mean, chocolate Barbie. That's really all they want you to be, is chocolate Barbie. Or light-skinned Barbie, but whatever. Just be a version of somebody white that just has melanin or a big ass or a little bit more culture about you. Make you a little bit more, outside of the norm. You know what I mean? Be exotic slightly. Like, get the fuck out of here. Another example was Chrissy Teigen. Chrissy Teigen and a publication going in on a child. I'm not even, because I always mess her name up.
I practiced it too. I practiced it before I came on here.
Quavanzane. Thank you. I remember Quavanzane because this movie was really big right around Katrina. Where the the wild beast? What is it? Is that what was the name of the movie? Where the wild beast?
You got it. Yes. You got it. It's Wild Beast of the Silver Moon, something like that.
Yes, and it was beautiful. It was a beautiful depiction of this little girl kind of being basically lost after a storm. So it was very much something that touched me at that time. And I did not realize she got all this scrutiny. She's a child, and apparently Chrissy Teigen was upset that she felt like the little girl was cocky and went online to kind of make these disparaging comments about her. Now, mind you, this is years ago, but also Chrissy Teigen has kids and always wants to invoke sympathy from people as a fucking adult. So it's crazy to me for her to turn around and have this public response to a child. Chrissy Teigen often, I think, does suspect shit as it pertains to children, but that's a conversation for another time. But this is another example of someone not seeing a little girl as a little girl. Yes, Beast of the Southern Wild. Thank you. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Beast of the Southern Wild. Thank y'all for that. So yeah, Chanel, go ahead, because I know you know more about this one.
Oh my God. So Quavanzane, I believe, and when this all happened, people were messing up her name a lot. And
Yes.
so at the Oscars, where Chrissy Teigen was, where she was tweeting as the Oscars was going on. So she's the youngest black girl to, the youngest actress actually of any color to be nominated for an Oscar. And while she's there, I guess people are coming up to her, and we know how black, you know how people are with black people names, they don't understand. They'll just say your name, however, and da da da. But she was correcting people. And so Chrissy Teigen started tweeting about this. It goes viral. She's 9 years old at the time. And then a satirical Twitter page called The Onion, I don't know if they're still out now, then proceeded to piggyback off of what Chrissy Teigen was saying and called her a cunt. Oh, I don't know if I can say it. See you next Tuesday. And it infuriated me for so many different reasons. One, this black girl is being, as a black girl, we have all been told that we got an attitude and we're being cocky simply for correcting someone about our name or just how to pronounce something on us or maybe getting something wrong about us. She did not even have that exchange one-on-one. She had to have it publicized for so many other people. And then that ignited so much racism and misogyny her way at such a young age. I will never truly forget this. She was a child, and it was the first time that I could remember watching a kid be demoralized and dehumanized in such a public eye like this, and it actually like taking flight and people defending her. It was really my first time seeing it, and it broke my heart because can you imagine like you're at the Oscars, this is your dream, it's your first time, and while you're in your seat, there are tweets going on about you being cocky and annoying, and it's coming from an adult.
For a 9-year-old to be cocky, like what would that actually mean? Like
simply correcting. It's like what Bondi said earlier. When you correct or you say something, is you think you're grown or you think you smart or stuff like that. I can see her being like, actually, it's Quavanzane, and someone being like, because as a child, you should be lucky I'm coming up to you and talk to you in the first place, and as a black girl, you should be lucky you're in this room in the first place.
And also, you know, Kevin here in the corner dressing up like her and, you know, and some other satire,
Oh,
you know,
Lord.
It's kind of like, so when a grown man dresses up like this little girl, what does that do? Does that make you feel like that's what this little girl looks like to you, a grown little man? Like, because then is that going to affect the way you treat her or the way you see her? And then, you know, when we have situations like, you know, with Tamir Rice, hello, you know what I'm saying? Y'all don't see the connection between how a grown person depicting a child in such a way can add to the adultification of Black children, always making them seem older than they are. And listen, girl, this one right here really upset me because I didn't even know about this one. I didn't even know about this until 2016. Erykah Badu. Okay. Erykah Badu apparently went to a school, and when she went to the school, she made this set of statements. It was I don't think it was an all-girls school, but the skirts that the girls were wearing apparently were shorter than she would have liked. She said, one way to protect youth is to remind them we are all sexual in nature. And as they grow and develop, it is natural to attract men. It is not them who is doing anything wrong by being beautiful and attractive, but with such imbalance in our society, it is smart to be aware and awake. Men and women both go through cycles of arousal. Men automatically are attracted to women of childbearing age. I don't like how that sounds.
Well, because I want my ignorant.
It is. She says, I want my daughters to understand this. I want them to be themselves and wear what they like, yet be aware, not ignore our differences. But do I think it is unnatural for a heterosexual male to be attracted to a young woman in a revealing skirt? No, I think it is his nature. Here's the thing. I took it even further back with this statement because she's talking about uniform skirts. And
Yeah.
I wanted to go back to the fact that y'all make it like it is mandatory in certain schools, especially growing up like I did in Catholic schools, for girls to wear skirts. They even made it like a big deal. There were days where we couldn't wear pants. It's supposed to be more ladylike for us to wear skirts, but then for the girls whose bodies are shaped differently, so their skirt is higher in the back than it is in the front, because y'all made this for the white girls that don't have ass. So
That
the
was
little
me as
high
I
booty
know.
teenage black girls have to be, dealing with this skirt in a whole different way. But it's not
I
even
know.
their fault that they have to wear this. You've made this mandatory for them to wear. And then you have people like Erica Badu making them responsible for how they're seen by adults while wearing these skirts.
But here's the thing, though, Bondi. It doesn't name the real issue. I hate when I hear women talking about um, girls and women needing to be protected, but you don't name who the fuck they need to be protected from. It's not their issue. It's not their fault. Talk to the predators. Talk to the
Yeah.
predators. Because if we didn't just wholeheartedly accept that women are preyed upon sexually as a tactic of power and control, then we wouldn't have to worry about what people were wearing.
True.
Yeah. Right.
True.
And it's there's a difference between protection and policing. Um, and just like Bondi was saying, it was in the context of teachers and students. And so that male teachers are not tantalized by female students, they should have longer skirts. There should not be any men tantalized by a young woman in a teaching class and classroom aspect at all. That should be the thing. And it is not natural. Childbearing age, I got my period at 9. What the hell? What is that? You know what I mean? That it's not natural. It is pedophilia.
Yes.
If someone is looking at their student as anything else than this innocent child that I have to guide and teach. That's all. And to your point, Bondi, like the sexualization of adultification definitely plays a role when you're shaped differently. Because I remember when certain outfits for my friends who were curvier had to be sent home because it looks different on her. But what you really want to say is that it's tantalizing to you, and that's why you need to remove her from the space instead of the people who are from being predators to these young girls.
Right, because it's so hard for grown ass men to not be a predator. You can look at somebody and feel like her body looks like the body of an adult and still not act on the thought or the impulse or say anything or touch anybody or make anybody feel uncomfortable. You could keep that thought in your head, therefore not making the child responsible for what's going on in your head. It's very weird that we're forced to even deal with people's thoughts versus what's actually happening in the moment. Like, it's crazy. But the last gossip topic that I wanted to bring up before we bring on the two ladies is R. Kelly. And the reason why I brought R. Kelly up is because I feel like when the Surviving R. Kelly documentary first came out, the response to the young women was so disheartening. There were a few of them that were absolutely underage at the time of their relationships with him. Some of them were adults, yes, but some of them were absolutely teenagers. And the way people made videos and had whole narratives about how these girls knew what they were getting into. They knew who R. Kelly was. Their parents sent them there. They just wanted to get on. They wanted to be a star, and this is the price you pay. And as someone that at one point really wanted to sing and be involved in the entertainment business in a real, in front of the camera, not this way, but, in the Hollywood way. But at the very beginning of my career in the studio, had someone make me feel like they were propositioning me in a way, and I was already kind of aware of what it felt like. You hug me too long, you make me feel the fact that if I want you to let me go in this moment, you don't have to, and there's nothing I can do about it. So it lets me know, like signaling to me, that when you decide to harm me, if you decide to harm me, you can. But you'll dangle music and my career and my dream in front of me in order to make it seem like it may be worth it. But when it all boils down to it, I don't think anybody under the age of 25 knows what they're getting into when they enter in relationships with celebrities, whether they're teenagers or grown adult women. I think sometimes when we say, oh, they knew, they did not know, because nobody signs up to be locked in a room and fed, on a plate through a door. Like, nobody signs up for that shit. But of course, that is the response that I think a lot of people had towards the young women, and also Aaliyah. Even back then, people adultified Aaliyah to the point that we knew what her age was, and everybody was like, well, she's growner for her age. She's more mature
She acts
for her
mature.
age. Heard that consistently. She's more mature for her age. Not mature enough to marry a grown-ass man at 15. But that's what happened, and nobody said anything, and everybody just let it happen until it was about to come out and be public. And when it came out and was public, then all of a sudden now it's an issue, and we need to. Well, actually, it wasn't even an issue that it came out. It was, I think, an issue that they found out she may have been pregnant, allegedly. But either way, still, it was so much that made them look like a couple. This very small teenage girl sitting in matching clothes next to a damn near 30-year-old R. Kelly on videos and interviews and on the album cover. And this is absolutely everybody seeing a child be taken advantage of by a grown man and just kind of turning a blind eye to it, because you want to tell yourself that she is older than she really is.
Come on now. The response to this docuseries, I had to get off of social media for a moment. I wanted to watch the response. I couldn't do it. It was all about them girls was fast. What was you doing at the studio? Where were the lead single? The album cover with her 15-year-old self and him creepily in the back. He showed us in plain sight, like I hope he's underneath the jail. But it infuriated me. It fired me up, because actually while I was still researching and doing all that, that's when the documentary was coming out. And I was just like, how are you all not trying to give the biggest hug and support to these girls? If you was fast, you were loose, how could you be there? Why didn't you know? So you think R. Kelly was really interested in signing you? Yes! It goes back to what you think a child can understand. And what you think a Black child should understand, because the world is hard to Black people, to Black girls. So you expect them by the time they're 14 and they face a predator, which by 14 we probably face 4. You expect her to already know what to do, because you a strong Black woman and you already know. You say I'm too grown, but then I'm supposed to be grown enough to understand someone's trying to groom me. Someone's trying to manipulate me, to understand abuse, the multi-layers of abuse. You think I'm supposed to understand that and somehow get myself out of that? It infuriated me to watch people cling to all of those women in that way. I'll never forget it.
Well, we see Black women of all ages be dismissed as being victimized, period, full stop, right? And part of what makes this particularly problematic is like the problem with adultification is it removes the possibility of innocence. And once you remove the possibility of innocence, then everything that is perpetrated on you is your fault and your responsibility. And then you add on sexual trauma to that. We still very much live in an antagonistic society that if a woman comes forward, she's got to prove everything. So for the minute number of cases where the woman is making up charges, we magnify that as if that's 99% of the time, when it's really the inverse. And so of course a young girl doesn't feel like she has agency. Of course, if you're dangling something in front of me that I want, that I desire for my life, no one around me is protecting me. Maybe my parents also are saying, just go talk to him, be nice. Don't you want this thing? Like all of these subtle ways. And then we have the expectation that people are supposed to know how to navigate. There are grown women who are sexually harassed at work right now and don't know how to navigate
and don't say
advocating
anything
for themselves.
But somehow think a 15, 16-year-old was supposed to see that that was an adult man, and so she was supposed to stay away from him, versus recognizing how these grown men are at the goddamn McDonald's. Like, where is she supposed to stay away from
Hello.
him? Outside the school. Where was she supposed to go where that man wasn't going to be, where that adult man wasn't going to be? And let's not even talk about the regular black girl that grows up in the neighborhood, in the old black men that are sitting on the goddamn corners drinking,
Come
doing
on now.
absolutely nothing all day, just sitting around, just, you know, for you to be catcalled or talked to nastily. Y'all, I literally, my mom's hair salon was down the street from a corner store, and I was left alone merely because everybody knew my family in that neighborhood. But I feel like if my family wasn't as well known, if we wasn't mob deep like we are, I might not have been as safe, because they literally catcall and, you know, fuck with you. There's no peace. What I mean, you know, like, even as an adult woman, there are times where I will not stop at a gas station. I'm about to be on E, but I don't want to stop at this gas station because I don't feel like getting out and dealing with the possibility of any nigga talking to me right now. Like, just leave me alone.
100%.
Come on now.
100%.
Come
I
on
mean, back in
now.
the day of giving a fake number, giving a fake name, just so that you can escape.
Yes.
Without being whatever. And that's the thing that I, you know, well, now we done ended up in man versus bear territory, right? But that's the thing that I don't think that they can sort of wrap their brains around. And I talked to my child about this, and even my clients, like, it happens on a continuum. Is every man a predator? Absolutely not. But does every man have access to exert their power over women in this society? Absolutely, yes. Right? And that happens in very obvious physical ways, and it happens in very subtle and psychological ways, because that is part of their birthright as masculine men, is to behave in that sort of way. And there are also a lot of women who have been the recipients of their mother or their aunts or whoever, women caretakers, unhealed parenting, to teach them to lean into that for themselves, because they haven't done the work of acknowledging that it's trauma, acknowledging that it's problematic, and doing something different.
Right. Well, with that, we're going to take a quick little break. And when we come back, we're going to bring on Amethyst Simone, which is one of my followers. And she also has a story that connects with, you know, you think you've grown in the adultification of young Black women. So we're going to take a quick little break and we'll come back with that. All right.
Anywhere you go, you belong. Anywhere you say, anywhere.
All right. So we're back with Chanel, Dr. Nikki, and Amethyst Simone. So I wanted to give Amethyst the ground to share her own story and how she can relate to the documentary.
She frozen.
Oh, she froze?
She frozen. I think she might be.
Oh, you popping?
You good now? We can't hear you though.
We can't hear you, but we can see you. Yeah, I think she's watching us on TV, so there's a delay. Yeah.
We still can't hear you.
We still can't hear you. She might have to come back, jump out, and come back in, maybe, because it's giving a little.
I think, can she not see that we don't, babe?
Okay,
okay. Let's see.
Maybe she's muted.
I don't think she's muted. I think it might just be an issue.
Right. It's probably like a connection thing because she
Yeah.
is like glitchy too.
Yeah, she said she's been having issues with her internet. So
Mm.
go out and come back in and we'll try it again. But in the meantime, I'll bring on Miko because she's ready. Hi, Miko. Hi, my love.
And now
You're
she on
muted.
mute.
Yeah, listen, we're gonna unmute
And
these
I
mics.
was muted. Hey,
All
how
right,
y'all
come on
doing?
now. Hey, Miko.
Hey y'all. How y'all doing
So
tonight?
How are you?
great. How are
Oh,
you?
beautiful. Doing great.
Well, I can't wait to hear your story and how you related to the documentary. So won't you go ahead and, get into it. Tell us your business, girl.
Well, listen. So, um, I would say with me and the "you think you grown" thing, it was more so of a you're fast, tell little girl. Y'all gotta excuse me. It's my first time telling my story in public, but it actually stems from something that has nothing to do with me. It was because my dad's side of the family and my mom's side of the family had beef, and they viewed my mom like that. So as I grew up, they viewed me like that too. But my mom was the one that would push that narrative. And excuse me if I get a little emotional, but I'll never forget. I was 14. It was after Katrina, and I had lost contact with my dad, and I was trying to get in contact with him. And my mom didn't want me to call him, so I went to my aunt's house to call him. And my favorite cousin was there, and he was 19, I think he was, and he proceeded to sexually assault me. And I kept that hidden for like 2 years, and like just kept it to the chest. And one day, I'll never forget, me and my brothers were arguing about something, and it just bubbled out. I was just like, y'all don't even know what I've been going through and all of these other type of things. And I just said, this is what happened to me. And they just looked at me and they were like, okay, so we're going to call mama. And they called my mom. She came home with fire in her eyes. And do y'all remember those belt buckles from way back with they were studded and you raised up? I had one of those for my middle name, and which is Brittany, by the way. Hey, but she beat me, and she beat me for about 10 minutes, and towards the end of the beating, she had took the belt and slid it on her hand like that, and was whacking me with the buckle. And the entire time she did it, she yelled at me and was saying to me that I wanted that to happen. And not only did I feel betrayed, unprotected and just lost, but it was also a thing of I loved my cousin, but I wouldn't want that to happen. And for years, and I'm in therapy for it now, but for years, even now, sometimes I feel like all I have to give is my body. And I'll never forget, after that, I was outside standing in a loose t-shirt and some loose pants. The breeze was hitting my scars underneath the shirt. And she told me, she was like, I'm gonna put you in a psychologist and with a therapist because you're clearly boy crazy. And she said to me, she said, I'll never forget when somebody attempted to take advantage of me, and all I had to say was, I'm gonna tell my mama. And that struck me as odd because I've never heard you say this before. I'm not discounting your story, but I find it odd that you're going to use your story to humiliate me in the time that I need you. And now I've watched you go through this same thing with your mother, your sisters, your brother, and my dad's side of the family, and you're pushing me through all of this. And I have 2 girls now myself. And it's difficult to try to, like what you were saying, Dr. Nikki, like trying to explain, like, hey, you can't dress like this, you can't do that, because it could jump out. Because it's in you, it could jump out. And I take it day by day, but I will say 2 things. The harm it did to me wasn't even from the assault. It was from the lack of protection. And I felt like, and I always, and this is my second thing, when you tell a little Black girl you think you grown or you think you fast, you just gave every predator that she comes across the go ahead to assault her. Because all they have to do is look at the victim and know exactly what to do. So it's important and imperative that if you could see little Curly Sue and little Shirley Temple and all her curls and see an innocent little girl, then you should be able to look at us the same exact way. Yeah. Because that's literally all we are until you tell us that we're not.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to put my therapist hat on. I want to if we all can we put our hands over our heart and one over our belly and just do some deep breathing and like just love our bodies just for a second.
Yes.
Let your exhales be slightly longer than your inhales. And we could do one more for each other. Yeah.
Oh man.
We had to honor our bodies with so much gentleness and softness and care because we have had so much violence happen to it, whether it's an active threat of violence, but even in that moment of you being victimized about your trauma, your body is pulling all of these reserves to respond to a threat. And what happens, especially for Black women, is we are doing that so often on automatic pilot, day in and day out, that we don't realize how hard we are holding ourselves.
Yeah.
Like we don't realize, like, oh, wait. And I do believe because we know that if we lean into all of it, it would overwhelm us. So what we have to do is learn to be able to do it in small, loving, compassionate, gentle, super soft micro moments so that we don't end up allowing the power of all those who have harmed us become us re-victimizing ourselves.
Absolutely. And
I'm so sad that happened to you.
I will say, honestly, to a certain extent, I'm not, because
I am.
I appreciate it. I don't say I'm not sorry. I say I appreciate it because it put in me a fire of, now that I look back on it, it's just like now that I got these girls, mama gotta heal too. Mama gotta, I gotta get it. I don't, this right here, because I did watch a little bit. That needs to stop.
Yeah.
Our generation, our girls, the girls that's coming up underneath us and everything, they need to be able to say, the way that I work through my trauma, I stare at myself in the mirror. I'm beautiful. Can't no one touch me. Can't no one take anything from me. Everything that has happened to me, this is a brand new body and it's mine. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's where we start. Once we teach them that your body is yours, we talk about it all the time in Bondy's Lives, body autonomy is a real thing. Your body is yours. Love it and protect it at all costs from anybody, whether you came from them or you run to them. Protect it at all costs.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Miko, for sharing your story.
Of course.
You know I love you, okay? Because you know we always talk in the Discord. So I
Yeah.
really appreciate you coming up here and sharing something so hard. And you're beautiful and amazing, and you look like Regine. And you know, I just
Give me a check.
I'm just saying, you look like Regine. Every you been talking, I'm like, she like Regine. Thank you
Thank
so much
you.
for coming
Thank
up and
you.
sharing your story with us. And you know, if you want to stay backstage, you can. But I'm gonna bring up Amethyst Simone so she can share her story with us. But thank you so much for
Thank you
sharing.
guys.
Okay, I love
Thank you.
you.
I love you guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh my
All right.
goodness.
Hi, Amethyst. Can we hear you now?
I should, is she here? Uh, Let me get myself together. Oh,
Uh, I don't know why it's happening like this, girl. We cannot hear you. We're gonna figure this out though.
oh, it's
Yeah.
very interesting.
Try something else because we can't hear you. So, and I know you said you had a storm going on. So like try to get out and come back in.
Yeah.
And
She
we'll
says
just
yes.
okay, we'll just wait. But yes,
Can I make a comment that I think is really important?
absolutely.
What Miko, is that her
Yes,
name?
yes,
Miko. When she shared about um the betrayal she felt because of her mom.
yes.
So I've been practicing therapist for over 20 years now. I've
Mhm.
worked with a lot of survivors. And that is the biggest truth that I have seen across survivors.
Mhm.
Sexual assault is going to shift your life. It is a trauma, it's a violation. But women who have a longer time or more difficult time, have more negative outcomes in their life as a result of that trauma, have that when the person that was supposed to protect them denies them, continues to put them in harm's way, blames them. It is that re-victimization on the part of the parent that causes more harm than the actual violation itself. And if there is
100.
one thing that I could get Black women to do, is to stop that shit. Stop choosing raggedy ass dick over your child. Period. Full stop.
Mm-hmm.
Stop protecting your own trauma so fiercely. Stop hiding behind your own shame so violently that you end up causing more harm to the person you are responsible for. We can't control predators. There's nothing any woman on this planet can do to prevent herself from being sexually abused, sexually assaulted, sexually harassed. Not nothing. No matter what you wear, no matter what you look like, no matter whether you was alone with him or not, there's nothing we can do. But what we can do is start allowing the people that actually own the victimization to own it. Stop being a buffer
Amen.
for them. Stop being a shield for them. Stop making excuses for them.
And stop making it a part of how you see yourself moving forward.
Absolutely.
Come
Because
on now.
what I've noticed a lot in people that I've come into contact with is when they have these experiences, it often makes them see themselves as unworthy of love that is healthy. It
Well,
makes it
that's the
Yes.
hard.
trauma. That's the trauma
Yeah.
response, is
Exactly.
to say something has happened to me that I can't make sense of. I have been violated in such a way that I can't make sense of it. And we as human beings have to be able to make things make sense to continue to live in reality. And so we create a narrative that it must have been something I did.
Right.
Sometimes that looks like I'm going to control every scenario that looks like, smells like, feels like it could be that. So I don't do it again. Sometimes it's that we go, well, I'm going to go out there and be in control of my own body, and I'm going to sleep with everybody and do everything and dare you to say, but we create a narrative that facilitates us feeling safe again in our bodies. But what I'm saying is, once you become a parent, the standard for what you allow yourself to get away with changes the game. Because Miko didn't ask for that. That's her mama unresolved shit.
Right.
Get your shit together.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I just want to say,
And,
sorry. I just
no,
want to say real
okay,
quick because I saw the comment before we switch off. Somebody said, "What's the relationship like now with my mom?" To answer that, 2017, 2018 time frame, Mother's Day weekend, I sent her a 4-page letter, front to back, telling her exactly how I felt about it, telling her how I didn't feel safe. You did not protect me. I did not feel loved. All of that, and at the end of it, I told her I forgave her, and I hope she forgives me for holding on to all the anger. And that was, I still talk to her from time to time. She has a great relationship with my girls, but as far as, I hate to say it like this, but as far as I'm concerned, she's a birthing parent by science.
right. And it's very interesting that she mentioned, after chastising you for your abuse, mentioned her own. But like we always talk about people looking for the perfect victim. It almost looks like, because this also happens when you have been assaulted, or someone has tried to assault you. You try to look for any type of way that you weren't the victim, that you were not dominant, that you came out on top. So even her saying, like, when this happened to me, I had a chance to say my mother was going to come in and save me. When we know you can say that to a predator, they ain't gonna do shit. They don't care about that. That, and that's probably something she made up in her head. You know what I mean? A lot of times when we're assaulted, we dissociate, and then our brains can make up a different reality or different outcome that we would have wished. So she possibly do wish she could have stood up and said, "You're not going to talk to me. You're not going to touch me. My mother would da 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 da." But that's probably not how it happened. And it's. I have to say thank you so much for sharing that, and my heart, my love is just with you. And it's so beautiful that you are looking at your girls and saying that I had to do it differently, and that's the first step and the main step. Truly.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I really do.
Thank you, Miko. Amethyst, are we good? Can we hear you? I think she has a little bit of a delay.
Lord.
Damn. It
We
is
can't
not
hear
happening. And
it's not glitching, and we see your lips moving, but we
but we don't hear
anything.
you.
We don't hear
Did you put
you.
the settings? I hate to be the asshole, but the basic thing, you probably did, but can you just double check your settings on the computer and the platform?
Like whatever you're on. Because I feel like we should be able to hear you at this point.
I know, especially with the headphones and
Sometimes
everything.
you got to get both. Sometimes it's the settings for the device is separate than
and the settings
platform.
for the headphones.
Yeah. I think she was on her phone at first, and that was good.
Maybe with her talking, watching it on TV, maybe that's doing something.
There's a great workbook. So in my work, I've been increasingly doing more work with clients that is brain-based therapy as well as somatic therapy stuff in the body, because we can do the talk therapy all day long, and that's great and important because we are evolved human beings with language, but our bodies are holding on to trauma. Our brains have rewired around trauma. And so one book that I recommend to my clients is a book called Body Rights, Rites. It's by Sheena Young. And it's a workbook that you can work through on your own. I think it's a really great additive to therapy. Whether you're in therapy or not everybody can find a therapist that they want to work with or afford therapy. But I think it's great for Black women in general, but especially it's designed for folks who are sexual assault survivors. So I just wanted to put a plug in that.
Okay. All right. Well, Amethyst, I appreciate you trying, and we might have another conversation again, and I'm gonna have to call you up here. Okay. So thank you so much for trying. I really appreciate you. Okay. All right. With that being said, I'm gonna wait, I didn't mean to take everybody off at one time, but girl, I had redone everything. But since we're all on here, I do want us to have that conversation about how can we dismantle this? Like, besides having the conversations we're having now, like, what can we do as the adult women in the community to help and to make a difference in how the young girls behind us grow up, especially if we're not the mothers,
Stop making the
I think
generations underneath us our competition.
I think we have to first like walk into this understanding I grew up in a patriarchal world. And so the way I look at myself and others is with a bias. So start there. And then when it comes down to a Black child, it's all about taking a pause and reconfiguring. Am am I what I'm saying to this child? Am I policing them? Why am I saying it this way? When that girl is dancing, trying to, with her knees and trying to move and stuff like that, and I think that she's grown. I think she's tantalizing. Why do I think that way? I think it's about studying. I think like studying books and but also bringing that study into your parenting and pausing, and also what does that mean about me? Because if you are a Black woman raising another Black girl, and you're saying, you being fast, you being loose, you being this, you're also saying that about yourself. So I think taking a pause and asking yourself every single question, why am I saying this to this girl? And what is the intention behind how I am saying it as well? And also turn that back on yourself. Well, how do I feel about myself? How do I feel about Black girls and Black women? And do I have all these biases in me? I think that's a great start.
Yeah.
Yes. And y'all know I love to like get y'all to ask yourselves like why am I upset about that? Like why is that bothering me? And also specifically myself coming from New Orleans with like growing up twerking and dancing and having people make something that is just fun for us turn into something else. Like for instance, when I was in high school, like we couldn't even dance sometimes without some dude coming and pushing himself on us. And we're dancing, yes, but this is not a call for you to come and put your penis on my back. This is not a call for that. Me and my, you know what I mean? They used to surround us. Like in high school, that became a thing where the guys would like all circle around the girls who were dancing. The girls have no idea, right? They're just dancing, enjoying themselves, and all of a sudden there's a circle around them. And it's so funny. I recently just ran into shout out to Winter. One of the girls I went to school with, not Winter from the shows, y'all, but a Winter I went to high school with. Because I remember, and I will always remember her for this, that I was in the middle of a circle, girl, going down, doing all of the things, because I'm gonna dance. I'm gonna always be in the middle of the circle, girl. And I remember her snatching me out of the circle before they started to kind of close in. And they had kind of done that to some of the girls where they kind of close in on them, all of the dudes, and they're kind of, the girls are kind of stuck in between the guys, and they're kind of, they're filling them up and rubbing themselves all over the girls and all of that type of shit.
Yes.
And I can remember her pulling me out. And I'm like, girl, what the fuck? Why would you yank me like that? She was like, girl, they about to close in on y'all. Like, and I didn't even see it. So like now, that was the beginning of me not feeling comfortable dancing at the dances anymore. Something that has nothing to do with being sexualized by a boy, but you can't even do it without somebody trying to assault you. Like it's crazy. And that's why I'm always like so adamant about us not being, so judgmental about every little thing that Black women do. And then you see, it takes some, woman who has crystals and tattoos and locks, not me, to be sitting there twerking and telling y'all how it helps with the hips and how it helps release tension. Like y'all have to hear it a certain way instead of just saying it's a body movement, and y'all shouldn't assign this sexualization to it as if that's what every young girl wants when they're dancing. No.
Yes, I'm so glad earlier you brought up the guy sitting on the stoop, because I'm actually writing a horror film towards this topic. I remember when lollipops were not safe anymore. I went outside one day, I was licking a lollipop, everything was fine. Next day, went outside, and they're mid my uncle and grandfather age, making it about sexual, making it, that is all of a sudden a phallic symbol, and it was no longer safe. Like, do you all remember, like, when hot dogs and ice cream and bananas and lollipops was just no longer safe? Like, you was just an innocent girl
everything's a
lifting a lollipop at a bus stop. Yeah. And then now one day it shifts and it never shifts back again.
No. And then forever you have to be super conscious of everything you're doing and putting in your mouth, because especially in high school. Oh my God.
Oh yes.
Oh my God.
Like
oh my Lord.
And then I feel like the teachers are not even trained to like stop some of this shit, like, or to like, hey, stop. No, they just kind of let it happen, join in on it, whatever the fuck. It's ridiculous. But
I want to just chime in. You said, what can we do? And I love what everybody said and agree with that. And I think you start with yourself and keep focused on yourself, meaning we all have inner little girls that have stuff that has not been attended to, that she did not get the softness that she needed. She did not get the care that she needed, that she did not get the protection that she needed. And we can all continue to do the work of doing that for ourselves, because the more we attend to ourselves, the more we release stuff that is not ours and doesn't belong to us, the more that we show ourselves compassion, the more that we show ourselves love in like a gentle way, the more it becomes very difficult for other people to mistreat us. And we also begin to respond to those others in our life who we can trust to be tender with us and gentle with us, to be clear that we can trust in the same way. And so I'm always going to tell you to start with yourself and end with yourself. If you can collect anybody else in love and compassion and joy along the way, wonderful, but take care of yourself first, because we have a lot of unlearning to do, a lot of healing to do.
Yes. Thank
you. I will just like to piggyback off what you said real quick, Dr. Nikki. I also feel like what we're doing now, just talking, getting it out, spreading the word, talk like openly expressing your trauma. Because I honestly feel like in the Black women's community, especially, silence is killing us. It is slowly rotting us out. It's killing us from the inside, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And a lot of times it's because we've been taught like that's a source of pride, that you just pick yourself up by with your big girl panties on, put your stuff up by your bootstraps and keep on going. But I feel like when it starts with you and it starts with yourself and you make it a community, you don't make like everything that we've been saying, and then you make it a dialogue and we keep on it. Because Me Too was something, but if we, for us in our community, if we can keep on it and do like look how we did for VP. If we can do it for ourselves,
show up.
We'll be able to go. And that's all it needs. All it has to take is just one generation to take it, and we're going to get there.
I agree. Well, Chanel, I'm going to let Miko go. Thank you, Miko. Thank you so much. You know I love you. Thank you for sharing, and I'll talk to you later.
Yes.
Okay. And Chanel, I just want you to talk about where people can find the documentary and everything you have going on with that. And also, because I feel like we didn't talk about it, but if you can just give us a little bit about how you even got to wanting to put together this documentary, which, you know, is a huge conversation for us.
Thank you so much. I have to thank you for this, Bondi. You know, I'm a huge fan of you. You got me through the pandemic. Girl, you gave me some laughs when I needed it. So I'm just so amazed by this whole thing that you put together. So I have to thank you. So if you guys want to keep up with You Think You've Grown, I do have an IG page, You Think You've Grown Film. It's on Instagram, and you can also follow me at artisticlaughter. It's right here in the header. We have our big premiere at the Apollo Theater this August, the 12th. At 12 p.m. and the tickets are in the bio of my Instagram and also of the page's Instagram.
And in the description of this video as well.
Perfect. And we got selected at the Indianapolis Black Documentary Film Festival, and we also have a nonprofit screening happening in Indianapolis in late August. And you guys will get all of that information soon. And I'm working on a lot of college tours. I have some amazing ones that I can't share right now, but I'm going to be in a lot of cities with this film, and eventually I am going to distribute it and have it online for everyone. So just stay tuned for that. What started me? So I actually began therapy and teaching within the same year. And Blue Ivy, the petition with that was a little bit of a seed, but experiencing therapy and learning, just like Dr. Nikki said, about how the inner child, your childhood, influences every way you walk, every decision that you make. And once I started understanding that, so many things started to open up. I'm 20 years old. I'm teaching for the first time. And I was just a student a couple of years ago. And now in the teacher's lounge, hearing teachers say, she fast. I can tell by she walking, she having sex. Oh, yeah, she going to be pregnant by sophomore year. Bet. And I'm listening to all of this. I'm hearing all of this. And I'm just like, did they feel that way about me? Were they talking about me when I was a kid? Like all of these different things. And both of those things came together, and I was thinking about doing a film because I usually have narrative work where I just write a script and then shoot that. And then I said, no, I want to get into the origins of this. I want people to understand why they think this way. And when I was told people about my idea. They were like, yeah, they need to know why the white man did this to us. I was like, yes, and how the blacks continue it on.
Okay.
Because it's accountability across the board. If we really gonna change this thing, we have to, yes, talk about the origin, but also how we grabbed that baton and perpetuated it throughout the years. So I'm so happy that it's finally here. It's 7 years in the making. So I'm really excited.
Thank you so much. And Dr. Nikki, can you please tell everybody how they can get in contact with you and support whatever you have going on as well?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at Dr. Nikki Knows. It's DRNIKKIKNOWS, because I be knowing shit.
Okay.
And that's also my website, drnikkiknows.com. I'm a licensed psychologist. I have a private practice where I do teletherapy with clients in 42 states. I do coaching for women around pleasure and access to their bodies, particularly Black women. And I just got a copy today of my new pleasure journal. It's called The Pleasure Agenda. It will be live, available on my website in August. I'm so excited. It's a way for you to have an opportunity to hold yourself accountable for making sure you are centering yourself as a sexual being and your pleasure, exploring more about what you want for your body so you feel more empowered about that. And I have some very thoughtful self-reflection prompts because we want to continue to be growing and learning deeper into ourselves. So thank you so much for having me. To this day, I don't know how Chanel found me, but I'm so glad she did. It has been such an honor to have been a part of this documentary, to continue to be a part of this conversation. I cannot stress this stuff enough because I hear it in my practice all the time. I love working with women around healing this, but if we can stop the need for so many women to need healing around that, that would be my ultimate goal. So thank you for letting me be a part of this conversation.
Yes, no, thank you so much. And thank you, Chanel, for coming to me with this. It was honestly my pleasure to put it together and have this conversation with my people. So thank you so much for coming to me. And thank you, Dr. Nikki, for your time. Miko and Amethyst, thank you guys so much for wanting to come in and share your stories. I know it is not easy. And we're going to continue to have conversations that I find meaningful because I think that we need to be able to do that. And I feel like a part of what I do is holding space for other people. And I would like to continue to do that. So thank you again, ladies. And we'll talk to each other in the email, but thank y'all so much for coming on. And I'm gonna let y'all go. Okay. So thank y'all. Bye.
Thank you, Bondi.
Thank you. Okay, so you guys, I hope y'all enjoyed the show tonight. I hope that you guys, if you are in the New York area, check out Chanel DUPREE's documentary, You Think You Grown. Check out the trailer again and follow her on all of her social media so that you can stay abreast to when it is available online for everybody. We got to support the Black women that are really trying to create art that is indicative of where we are and where we're trying to go. And we all have to heal, girl. So let's continue to do so. With that being said, thank you so much for joining my show tonight, and I will see y'all in the